This is not a must-win game for the Dallas at all. This is a big statement game should they beat a team like the Packers, a team that would be great for them, the state of which they're in right now, for them to get a win with this. What do you think about this game coming up?
Well, it's not a must-win game, but it's one of those can't-lose games. I think the Dallas Cowboys offense can figure it out. I think they will figure it out, but they've got to get back to the formula that they used last year to get 13 wins, which is being able to run the football, not turning the football over, taking care of the rock, and controlling time of possession. This team right now is at the bottom of the league. They're 23rd in the league in time of possession. Last year, they were second. So they got to be able to control time of possession. Why is that important? Because their defense can't stop a nosebleed. So their defense is the running game, being able to control the line of scrimmage, allowing Ezekiel Elliott to put together and sustain drives, being able to convert on third down situations. That's the key for the Dallas Cowboys football team in order to have success. Now, they got back to that formula last week against the Los Angeles Rams, but turnovers, again, when you have Dak Prescott throwing interceptions, that's not their formula. He had 4 interceptions of all of last year. He's already got 3 through 4 games. So you got to take care of the rock, got to be able to run the rock, control time and possession.
Now, Cris, the one thing that I haven't heard I've heard people criticize Jason Garrett. I've heard them criticize Dak, Zeke, of course. People have been on Dez. I have not heard one person criticize Dallas's offensive line. Now, we know in the NFL, the longer you play, eventually people get a book or a game plan on you. Is it possible? I know they got a great offensive line. Is it possible that the NFL has a book on that offensive line now in that they can run the ball, but they can't dominate the way they did last season?
Well, they don't feel like they're as dominant as they were last year, and they're not getting the production consistently out of the run game that they got last year. Now, I think Tyron Smith has regressed a little bit, but in terms of personnel, in terms of talent, and in terms of guys man for man being able to line up and execute their assignment and block the guy in front of them, I don't think you're going to find a better offensive line. But they've got to put it together. It's about collectively those 5 guys being on the same page. Now, remember, Doug Free's not in that lineup and Ronald Leary's not in that lineup. So there's two new starters, so it's a little bit of an adjustment.
And people, I'm glad you brought up Doug Free, because last year a lot of people thought, that's a great offensive line with an okay right tackle. And people just assume Lyle Collins, a guy that was projected as potential top 50 pick when he was coming out of college. There was some controversy surrounding him. They thought there might be legal issues, so he ended up falling all the way to the bottom of the draft, or undrafted, I think, actually, yes. Lyle Collins. They're like, oh, this is going to be an upgrade at right tackle. It has not yet, to this point, been an upgrade at right tackle. But as far as is the game a must-win for the Cowboys, this game can tell you a lot about who this team actually is. And I say that because, Cris, you always make the point, analysts put too much stock in who a team was last year, that it's a new season every year and there's not a carryover, and that you got to disregard what happened last year. Well, right now, through 4 games, the Cowboys are a team that beats bad teams and loses to good teams. They beat the Giants. The Giants, especially the first game without Odell, that's a bad team, at least then. It might still be. They're 0-4. They beat Arizona. Arizona has 2 wins this year, both in overtime, both against awful football teams. Arizona's not a good team. Then they played the Rams, though. Rams look like a good team. They got beat soundly. They played Denver. Denver's a really good team. They got beat soundly. We know Green Bay is a good football team. Any team with Aaron Rodgers is going to be a good football team. So if the Cowboys win this game, it's like, okay, got it. Like, 3-2 is you'd take it. You'd rather be 4-1. But if they lose, you start saying, okay, like, when are the Cowboys going to win one of these tough games, as opposed to just winning? Because the week after this, they got San Francisco. Yeah, they'll beat San Francisco, but they're going to be the team they want to be, they got to beat these types of teams that are supposed to be their caliber or above.
No, you're right, but I think the Dallas Cowboys defensively are going to be a little bit better against teams that are one-dimensional. If you look at the Denver Broncos, they can throw it and they can run it. So if you look at the teams that they've beaten, Arizona and,
Arizona and the Giants.
And the Giants,
without
those
Odell.
teams are one-dimensional. So that's what I'm saying. They can't run the football. So if you look at what the Dallas Cowboys do best on defense, they got 3 or 4 amigos that can get after the quarterback. You're going to get David Irving back. That should help. You've got Malik Collins. You got Tyrone Crawford. And, of course, DeMarcus Lawrence, who's playing at a Pro Bowl level. So if Green Bay doesn't have Ty Montgomery, if they don't have those offensive tackles in place, it could be a long day for Aaron Rodgers down there in Dallas.
Can we get back to the Cowboys just for a second? You talked about the biggest difference between last year and this year would be the Cowboys wanting to really hone in on their time of possession, and they need to. But no one has been able to really explain to me all the fundamentals are in place, all the pieces are still in place, the offensive line hasn't really changed. for the most part, the team looks exactly like it did last year. What has been the difference? Because last year they had a pretty easy go with the similar teams that they're playing this year. What's been the big difference this year?
Well, they've had the distractions with what's going on with Ezekiel Elliott, and there tends to be a little bit of complacency when you talk about young players having success in this league. So you have Dak Prescott have the campaign he did as a rookie. You have Ezekiel Elliott being the league's leading rusher as a rookie. So you tend to think that you're just going to pick up where you left off.
Do you think they did that? Was there a sense of complacency?
I think there's a
part
part of that. I think that's a small piece of it. But again, it goes back to the offensive line with the Dallas Cowboys. Once this group gets on track, those 5 guys on the same page, I think you'll start to see more production in the running game, and their formula for success, which they utilized last year, will come back into play. This team will be a lot better. They haven't figured it out through the first quarter of the season, but you don't have to be at your best in the first quarter of the season. As long as they keep working and trying to put it together, I think when we get to Thanksgiving and we get to December football, this team will be right there.
Chris, real quick, would you pick Dallas to be the favorite to come in the NFC East? Given what you've seen, what's going on with the Giants, Washington.
I tell you, I like the Philadelphia Eagles. I like the Philadelphia Eagles. And
Thank you and good night, everybody.
Listen, this is one of those teams that coming into this season,
Come here every day.
They had arguably the best tackle tandem in the NFC East. And we feel good about Carson Wentz. We saw early last year he played very well, but when he lost Lane Johnson, he was just not the same quarterback.
100% correct.
Exactly. So when you don't have those tackles to protect the edge of the pocket, your quarterback is not going to be as efficient. So I'm looking at this Philadelphia Eagles team. It's aggressive on defense with Jim Schwartz. They got about 5 or 6 guys that can get after the quarterback themselves. So I like the formula that this team is using. Carson Wentz taking that next step in his development. I'd have to say right now through the first quarter of the season, they're the team in the NFC East.
Look, I like the authority for which you deliver that.
Right?
That was all right.
Well, you got to have some conviction about what you do, CC.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.